She's amazing. I got the chance to talk to her before the recording. So she's helping people with their mental health. But that's not it. She also has a not-for-profit. And so before we get too far into it, I want to introduce you. Lucy, how are you doing today?
Hi, Tony. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good, thank you. Do you want me to say a bit about myself
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
what you
Tell
want?
people where you're from.
Yeah,
And then we'll go from there.
yeah, good, good. Yeah, so I'm Lucy. I'm from the UK, as you can probably tell from my accent. I'm actually from Manchester in the UK. My background is psychiatric nursing, so I've been a nurse for nearly 10 years, and My my work in regards to the nursing that I do is all around occupational health. So it's about supporting people's mental health in the
Mhm.
workplace, educating managers around how to look after their staff, um, educating employees how to take control of their own well-being and how to, develop techniques and skills around what they can be doing to help themselves. I deliver mental health first aid training, so I train up first aiders in the workplace as well. But alongside that, I do run a not-for-profit organisation which is called Relax with Lucy and Co. So I couldn't actually think of a name at the time that I set it up, and I thought, well, I'm called Lucy. It's all about relaxation, so wasn't very creative. And then over time, we've kind of grown, which is why there's the and Co on the end. So there's not just myself; there's a team of us now.
Mhm.
And we would describe ourselves as delivering digital baby loss wellbeing interventions, and everything that we do sits within our free baby loss app, the Ellie's Gift app. And we basically deliver mindfulness relaxation sessions, we develop resources, and it's to help people prior to the delivery of a baby that's passed away, and then also supporting them following baby loss as well. So yes, that's not for profit. So that's kind of done in my voluntary time alongside my actual official role of the mental health nurse. So I kind of wear not two hats, but there's kind of two different things. However, there's a lot of overlap between the two things that I
Right,
do.
right.
Yeah.
I find that mental health and dealing with loss kind of runs hand in hand.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand that how it intertwines with each other.
Hmm.
I'm going to say first off, thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Mental health is one of those things that's been neglected for quite some time and has been misunderstood because I don't think people know how normal it is to actually suffer in your mental health and not even know it, right? And then we talked earlier about jobs, jobs not understanding their employees when they come in and they're suffering. So, and you said something interesting that they normally send these individuals home.
Mm.
So I'm guessing this is where you come in and go, no, that's not the solution. We have to
Yeah.
do better, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's some of the biggest challenges when dealing with the workplace and mental health?
Yeah. So what you see a lot in the workplace is something called presenteeism. So that's where employees are turning up for work, but they're actually just managing to keep their head above water, as
Mm,
it were. So they're kind of really struggling with maybe anxiety or depression, because those are two of the most common ones that you generally see in the workplace.
mm,
But yet they're turning up for work and they are just doing their best, but actually their best is just barely
mm,
enough. So they're just doing enough to kind of keep the job, but they're actually not performing at the best. And it's very interesting because of the stigma that's surrounded about mental health in relation to mental health. A lot of people will not ring in sick, have a sick day.
right,
They won't say it's my mental health that's the issue today. They will likely say, I've got a headache, I've got backache, I've got tummy ache, because of that fear of being judged, or it can be.
mhm,
Um, or maybe that kind of fear around management or colleagues seeing them as less than other people because of their mental health. So we see a lot of people who are kind of turning up and turning up and turning up until eventually it becomes too much and it's gone too far. So the work that I do is about early intervention. It's about educating people around some of the common signs and symptoms in relation to mental health,
mhm,
and the difficulties that it can present with, but then empowering them and educating them to say, hey, you know what? All these things are really helpful. Things like, do you know all this stuff about sleep? Do you know all this stuff about your diet? Do you know all this stuff about mindfulness, about the connection with others. All of this different stuff we can bring in very earlier. And a lot of workplaces now in the UK are really recognizing that this education is really important, and that's making a big difference. So,
Yeah. I think COVID exposed a lot of that.
yeah.
When COVID hit, I think, listening to what you're just saying, I think it was a worldwide pandemic, right? Not just the virus, but the mental health, the addictions, the domestic violences, the child abuse that was going on. It was crazy. It was very, very crazy, you know, and being a mental health first aider myself, I had the opportunity to go on a few calls with the police
Mm,
to kind of be the middleman
mm,
between, you know, what's going on with the suspect, and was, you know, and keeping the police from throwing things out of proportion. And
mm,
I definitely agree, having someone there to actually help them navigate that
mm,
actually brought down a lot of the violence, a lot of the misunderstandings, but also educating people on it as well. Like, you know, like you said, be mindful. But I don't think everybody understands what being mindful is, uh,
no.
because I didn't even understand it, not till probably about a year till I got into doing what I was doing. And someone went, "Hey, you want to do a mindfulness class?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I had to research it. So I was like, "Oh, that's what it was." And come to find out, I'd been doing it for quite some time, just on my
Yeah,
own, right?
yeah,
Um, what are some of the telltale signs that you've seen yourself, dealing with people going through a mental health crisis?
yeah. So a lot of the time, people aren't aware that they're actually getting unwell.
Yeah,
Um, so I always say, you know, I mean, I'm leaning into that mindfulness comment. So, like, mindfulness is about awareness. So it's
right.
awareness of what's happening, but we can also relate that to ourselves, self-awareness of what, you
Mhm.
know, who you are, you know, what you like at your best, what you like at your worst. So I'm always very open to say that I have an anxiety condition. It was diagnosed. So I actually didn't, I don't think we mentioned this prior to the call, but I'd explained that I had lost Ellie. And then
Right, yes.
I'd also, my twin brother died suddenly when I was 15. So we were twins, and his heart just stopped, and he collapsed and died, and we still don't know what happened. He was running in a cross country race for his school, very active, very healthy, and his heart stopped, and we don't know why. So following his passing, I've always been very, very anxious about lots of bad things happening, you know,
Mm,
always. I think I've been quite hyper vigilant. So the work that I do now is actually a result of my own self-discovery journey
right,
about
yeah.
learning how to manage my own mental health. So when you say what are the telltale signs, I'll use myself as an example. So my condition is anxiety. So I am what I would call high functioning. On the surface, I appear okay. You know, I come across very confident. Of this is what I've been told as well. So please don't think it's a self-indulged comment, but
No, no,
I
none,
come
none
across,
whatsoever.
yeah. It's very confident. You know, I've been able to achieve a lot. I'm 34 next, but over the time since his passing, I've done a lot of things in relation to education and things that I've got involved in, etc. Now, when my mental health is becoming unwell, things start to slip. So things like I start to sleep really, really bad. So my sleep becomes very broken. Now,
Mm,
normally my sleep's very good, but if I'm unwell, I'll start waking up having panic attacks, and that involves my heart beating really, really fast. I start feeling a sense of dread for no reason at all. Start to feel very, very worried about what's going on, what's happening in the world. And I might start focusing on a lot more on the news and things, whereas normally I don't pay attention to the news. Other things would be blowing things out of proportion, you know, maybe being much more snappy, irritable, a little bit irrational, maybe thinking that the worst might happen when actually there's not really that much need for concern.
mhm.
I'll start neglecting my diet, meaning that I won't eat regularly. I'll maybe start to overuse caffeine, because what a lot of people don't know about caffeine
Mm,
And we live in a society, I don't know what it's like where you are, but here,
coffee.
yeah,
Caffeine is, yes, it's your go-to in the morning, but
exactly, yeah, yeah. So when I educate on mental health and to teach people, especially with anxiety, look, well, caffeine increases your heart rate, and it's going to contribute to you feeling very jittery.
Mm,
So the advice is, because a lot of people don't know that caffeine has a half life of 6 hours and a quarter life, again, of another 6 hours. So that means if you have a cup of coffee at midday, it's still in your system at 6 o'clock in the evening, and still in your system again at midnight. And if you're hammering that coffee all day and you're somebody who struggles with anxiety, that in itself can be enough to make you feel much more anxious. Or as well as having maybe some weird withdrawal symptoms if you're not having your caffeine because your body's got used to it. And also affecting your sleep, because sleep's a massive trigger for people, can be a massive trigger for people in relation to their anxiety. If they're not sleeping well, then it can exacerbate the symptoms. So things like sleep would be affected, using more caffeine, normal routine. I really enjoy going to the gym, but when I'm not well, that completely drops off. I enjoy yoga, I enjoy going walking, those things drop off. So this is about knowing that saying, know thyself, understanding who you are, what you like at your best, and having that self-awareness. And again, this is why mindfulness is great, because it helps us to be very, very self-aware. We can check in with when the basics are actually not kind of coming together in a way that they normally do. So many of us, we can become very focused sometimes in what we call the doing mode of mind. So we like achieving, and then feeling very stressed as well with that. But somehow we make ourselves believe that somehow if we do more, we can rest and we can feel better. But the problem is we kind of get stuck in this cycle, and then things start to drop off. Like if one of your hobbies is, I don't know, taekwondo, it could be common, for example, if you were taking too much on and your mental health was starting to take a decline, that you would drop that taekwondo because suddenly you've not really got the energy, or you can't really be bothered, or you just, you've convinced yourself that maybe if you get that bit of work done instead, that you can do the taekwondo a different day. So it's about having that balance and recognizing when that balance goes out of sync, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense. I've been there and done it, suffered in mental health, high, like you said, high anxiety. And so when I'm around, like I'm an introvert, but I have extroverted times.
Yeah.
So I'm not a very big sociable individual. Like I prefer to be alone. I have a hard time being out in crowds, right? Because I don't know. It's something about not understanding other people's intentions towards me. And I pay attention. I'm very, very observant. So when I see people and something's out of place, my first instinct is to back up a little bit, be aware. But my anxiety is going, okay, this is what we're going to have to do. So I'm already playing out this wicked scenario in my head. Like I may have to fight like 5 people, I'm not going to fight nobody, but my mind is like, if we have to, and then it's like this race, right? But I am aware of it. I am very, very aware of it. So on those times, and I don't think people really understand, in those times, being aware, being mindful of yourself, right? And so what I've learned to do, and this is something that I try to teach other people, chunk it up in moments.
Yes.
In this moment right here, you're feeling anxiety, because in that moment, if you try to think outside of there, from my own experience, if you try to think outside of that moment, you can actually add to the anxiety. But if you look at everything in that moment, you can look at it and go, why do I have anxiety? And then you can put things in a perspective. And when that moment's passed, the anxiety is left there, and then you can move on to the next one. But you have that extra bit of self-awareness going forward, right? We talk about loss, losing children, you lost yours. And baby loss. I got a lot of friends who are into baby loss and
Yeah.
things like that. Now, with your mental health and with the loss, that kind of how did that affect you a little
Yeah, so so going back to when my brother passed away, I spent many years trying to box it up and just trying to sort of go, yeah, I'm fine, I'm all right, yeah. And I dabbled in counselling and whatever, but what I tried to do, I did a talk a few weeks ago at a festival about grief, and I actually told a story about grief. I wrote a story, and I actually got my husband to pretend to be grief, and together we did this wonderful. It's a little bit dramatic, but it was on stage in front of people,
bit?
and it was just to show how grief, how for many years I tried to push it away, but it kept coming back with a vengeance. It kept, you know, like whispering in my ear, affecting my concentration, waking me up at night, like all this different stuff. So for many years, I didn't really look at my brother's death. And then what happened is when Ellie died,
Mm.
it was like so much, because not only had I not dealt with the passing of my brother, I was now faced with another significant bereavement, and I had no choice but to look at it. So my mental health, and at the time as well, in Manchester where I lived when Ellie died, there was the Manchester Arena bombing.
Mhm.
So it felt like the whole of Manchester were grieving, as well as I had just lost my daughter as well, under not not nice circumstances with the situation that was happening at the time. And yeah, my mental health really did take a big decline, to the point where I actually came out of my nursing job at the time, and I took a year out, and I really had to go on a journey of self discovery to try. I was looking at everything to try and fix the way I was feeling, and this is how I found mindfulness. And what really annoyed me when I found mindfulness is that whilst I went along to this course trying to get rid of grief, mindfulness actually said, hey, let's look at it. And I was like,
Yeah.
what? I've not paid money to be here to look at my grief. I want to push it away. And then, but you know what? It was only when I actually did turn towards my experience in grief, what was happening, and actually acknowledge that what I was feeling and what I was experiencing was a normal reaction.
Right.
And I was actually learning how to walk with it rather than try to push it away, and to accept that this wasn't something that I could get rid of. It would just be, like I explain grief like being at the beach with the tide. So sometimes I'm completely in it, and
Mhm.
I'm can't keep my head above water, and I feel like I can't breathe, and I'm struggling to function and swim. And then other times the tide is out, but I can see it. I know it's there, but I'm okay. I'm doing all right. And that's very much the way it is with my grief. Whereas I'll go times where I'm okay, and then other times where a big grief bomb hits, and it's like boom, and it can be anything. It can be a card in the supermarket with brother on or daughter on. It
Mhm.
can be a song, a smell. It can be something somebody says. It can be something in a film, an advert, the news, anything. And it comes out of nowhere, or so it seems. But I've really learned to accept that when those waves hit, I've learned how to surf, because that's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
And I've really started to honor that, and to see that experience as the representation of the love that I have for both of them,
Yeah.
and to respect that, because the way that I'm feeling and everything's the way that everything kind of shows up in grief is because of the love that I still feel for them.
Yes.
So yeah, so my mental health did take a decline. But I set up a little well-being. The Relax with Lucy was actually what I set up after losing Ellie.
Mhm.
And it was my way to get myself better again, because I knew that helping other people would help me to feel better. So I set up this little well-being business and I was able to work hours and times to suit me until eventually I re-emerged into the world of mental health, which is actually how I found myself then in occupational health, which is what I do now. So it's all been a
Yeah.
journey.
And I think that's amazing because a lot of people I talk to, same thing, would come out of these things. And we when we don't understand it, we look for ways of trying to understand it, right? And some people blow it off. Some people will self-medicate. Most people that I've met in the field of mental health or either in bereavement or trauma-informed individuals, there's always that commonality, right? We always going, well, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, but this sounds good over here. And I did the same thing. When I started Memories of Us, after my mother passed away,
Yeah.
I remember struggling something fierce, but I couldn't tell anyone, right? Because I'm the one everybody wanted to come to. And I think that's a huge thing when dealing with the mental health. We don't have time to acknowledge it because everyone else, when they go through things, we're the ones that they dump on, right? But who do we talk to, right? We kind of trying to figure it out because we spend so much time focusing on others, and it leaves us to our own demise, and as a man, I have to say mine was very, very destructive. Mine was very destructive. Mom passed away, started making bad decisions, didn't realize my mental health was just all jacked up, right? I thought I was doing just fine. I really did. I thought I was doing just fine. Nothing really changed. I had a pretty disciplined routine, working out, go to work, come home, work out, stay in the house for the most part. I had everything I need, so I didn't have to go out, right? Which was in so many ways, it was very detrimental because isolation, you're just left there, and that's what I did. And eventually I made bad choices, end up losing everything again in my life. I moved away, lost everything, had to come back and be homeless. So imagine now a grown man coming back that's had everything, lost everything. Now I am at everyone's mercy, because I don't have a place to live, or stay. So, I had to go sleep on couches. And sometimes that wasn't available, so I slept in my car, right? And eventually, with my mental health, it turned upside down when I started planning out my own suicide. And I don't think people really understand that neither, because it can make you feel worthless, right? Compelled, all of these different things, losing the people that you care about, and then having this overwhelming sense of just, I don't care. Right? Everything in life, it's like, what does it really matter? What does it really matter? And I say that because with the audience, and they know that I talk about it all the time. When you're in these moments, always look for someone to talk to. And I most of us don't have that. And so we try to be that for everyone else. We try to be that, but I didn't have anyone to talk to. And it was like, once I got to that point, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I just don't want to do it anymore. Life was not, me and life, we was not on good talking terms, right? It was like, I'm not talking to you no more. And life was like, what are you going to do about it? I was like, I can be done with this if I want to. And there was something about this last stint of almost taking my life. The fear of dying wasn't there. It was gone. And so with that fear being gone, I was going, well, maybe this is the right thing, right, Mike? It's going to be better for everyone if I'm not around, right? And then it's going to be better for me. That way I don't have to deal with what's coming. But then that aha moment came, and I was like, oh, in those moments, it was like, I need to figure this out. If it, I came real close this last time, but after that, it was like, I need to figure this out, because if not, the next time I do it, I'm going to succeed. I am really going to succeed. But like you said, you find purpose in that fire, right? You come out of that, you come out of that mud, that muck of all that darkness. And to be able to stand up, beat, battered, and torn, just riddled, right? Riddled with just everything, all of these different things. And to find that strength to go, you know what? I'm going to take this and use it to serve other people.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that when in people's hearts, when they have a servant's heart. It's something about that, having that passion, seeing others step up into themselves, right? You know, sitting with yourself. That's a hard one. You mentioned that earlier. You know, you said that you had to sit with yourself and actually learn how to surf the waves of it. You know, and I don't think a lot of people know how to do that.
No,
You know, and it takes time. I think people try to rush the process as well.
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think the big facilitator for that is the mindfulness, and of course
Mhm.
that in itself is a practice. This kind of, you know, repetition of practicing being in the moment, being aware, and also accepting whatever is there, allowing it to be there, and bringing in
Mhm.
some kindness and compassion to what's happening. So, to give you an example, this morning I woke up and I felt okay when I woke up, but then my alarm went off, and my phone popped up with a news article, and it was of an old lady who had I think she was 106, and she had just found out that she'd experienced a baby loss many, many years ago, and in her day, it wasn't spoken about, it wasn't supported in the way it is now. And she'd had this baby that was stillborn, and it had been taken away, and she was left to deal with it on her own.
Mhm.
Anyway, she's just found out that the baby's actually got a grave, and her baby's actually got a grave with other babies, and she never knew. And they've covered this story on BBC News, and now for me it was incredibly touching to read that, but also incredibly triggering as well, because that touched the mother in me,
Right.
who also is a bereaved mother. And I felt incredibly upset. And then my husband came up. He's like, "Well, why are you so upset?" And I'm like, "Oh, I've read this news article, and it's really difficult, you know, and it's been triggering for me." Um, and of course, him, he's a doer. He wants to fix things. He wants to fix it right there and then. So he didn't know what to do with it, but I did. I knew that what I needed in that moment was to be with myself, to give myself the same comfort and care as I would a friend in need, a friend in suffering. If I was sat with myself, supporting me in that way of being kind, compassionate, and acknowledging that it's a normal response. I'm allowed to feel that way. And recognizing that, as with any emotion, as with any time that we have an expression of how we feel, it changes, because that's the only thing we can be absolutely certain of in life, is that the way that we feel changes. So I can be feeling complete despair, but also aware that this is temporary at this moment.
Right.
And in that moment, what I need to do is just to be there for me. So that's how I learn to ride and surf, to kind of bring this acknowledgement, this acceptance, this kindness in, and recognizing that it's a temporary state, and that it might come again, yes, but the way I feel right now in this moment, it will change at some point. And sure enough, I had a shower, got myself ready, started the day, and then, you know, I don't feel the way I did this morning. I feel different because there's been a shift.
Right.
So yeah.
I love that, how you say that there's a shift in it, you know, doing, and it leads into my next question, the self-care tips, right? We talked about that a little bit earlier. Self-care is important when you're
Mm,
dealing with unforeseen circumstances
yes.
in your life, like loss and, you know, dealing with your mental health and things like that. A lot of self-care, a lot of people don't even understand. Like as a man, I didn't know what self-care was, right?
Yeah.
Because no one ever taught me. It was like whatever, right? And then when you hear a friend of mine told me, she was like, you need to go out and pamper yourself. I looked at her, I was like, what do you mean pamper yourself? I don't know. Go to a movie, go to dinner, go get a massage, go do this and go do that. I was like, so, and here's where my naiveness comes in. So you want me to do everything that a woman does? It worked for me, right? But that's what I was. And she was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with you? I was like, I don't know. You know, she was like, it's not just for women, Tony. men do these things too. I said, name a man that goes and does that. And, got your little towel up there with the cucumbers up there. And she went, well, this is my husband. If that makes it, I was like, oh, me. But I did. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. I started diving deeper into the mindfulness of it, right? Putting myself in those moments so I can extract what I needed from what I was going through.
Yeah.
But also understanding that the trauma of going through it, dealing with the PTSD and all of these different things, and to be able to sit back now and go, yeah, I appreciate the journey, but I don't think I would do it again.
Yes.
But then there's a side of me that goes, I would do it 100 times over.
Yeah.
If that means that I can take what I've learned,
yes,
and I can help someone else.
Yeah.
I can't change the past.
No.
I can't bring back what I've already lost.
Mm-hmm.
But also being in that moment, I also understand that the energy is still there. Like they're not gone. And I can reach into it. I can lean into that energy with them. And and like you said, learn to ride that wave out, right? I love that. I may have to take that from you.
No, it's fine. Yeah.
Never surfed before, but I think I could do that. I think I could ride the surfboard on out, So what are some self-care tips that you've implemented into your daily?
Yeah, I mean, so self-care, yes, it can be all of them things. It can be doing a spa day, or going to a movie, or treating yourself to something nice. Of course it can, but self-care also can be a lot more basic than that. It's things like getting a drink when you're thirsty. I know that sounds really crazy, but so many people in grief, they don't attend to the very basic of their own needs. So things like going to the toilet when they need the toilet, having a drink when you need a drink, making sure that you're eating when you're hungry, or eating regularly, and recognizing the choices that you're making, and because what you put into your body largely influences how you feel.
Yes.
So if your diet's going to be like caffeine and cookies all day, you're going to feel crap. You're going to feel horrible. You are, because you're pumping your body with caffeine. You've got loads of sugar. It's going to be highs and lows. You'll be crashing, irritable everywhere. So it's about looking after the basics. Showering. If your routine is to shower daily, I used to find that in grief very early on, in the most hardest of days, just having a diary, writing a structure to my day, and that didn't have to include a lot. It was just get showered, eat 3 meals, drink 2 liters of water, go for a 20-minute walk. And that was it for the whole day, which those are probably things that people go, well, sure, like that's just normal, isn't it? Like those are basic things. But when you're in grief, those basic things are very hard to do, because your whole world is completely upside down. So this is why I remember when my brother died, people brought food round, and I was only 15 and I couldn't understand. I was like, why is everybody bringing pie and stew round? Because that's not going to bring my brother back. But what they were doing is they were trying to look after the family, recognizing that my parents wouldn't have wanted to cook, and they were trying to look after the basics. So self-care can also just look like showing that those basics are in place. And also as well, another important point, self-care can also apply to your digital diet. So what we actually watch, listen to, and read also influences how we feel. So I make a habit now of, I don't watch the news. This is what I said before. If I am getting unwell, I'll focus on the news, because I'm interested in what's going on. It's like I'm maybe a safety thing, trying to assess what's safe, what isn't. But so now my husband, he drip feeds me what he thinks I need to know, which sounds a bit crazy. But for me, the news is very negative. So I that's part of my self-care. Not watching the news, not reading the news. If I listen to any podcasts, they're always either about learning, development, positivity. If I want to listen to a grief podcast, I'm very aware that that might make me feel a certain way. So I'll ensure that I'm doing it at a time that that's going to be appropriate for me if I need to get upset. So even just paying attention to your digital diet is important. So self-care doesn't have to look like the fluffy spa days. It can also be about what we're eating. Are we getting enough sleep? Even, sleep hygiene is I teach workshops on sleep for nearly a 2-hour workshop. That's how much we can cover on sleep.
Right.
So important. And for many people in grief, those basic things are very often the things that become affected: the sleep, the diet, the routine, all of it. So self-care in grief for me looks very much more like the basics. And then, of course, when you get the basics in check, then you can book that spa day, and then you can buy yourself something nice. But if your basics are not in check, they're not working, then they're like the foundations upon which everything else sits.
Right. Yes.
So you basically, if you're trying to do everything else on top of that, it's not gonna probably be as effective, or may not even work if you've not got your basics in check.
Right. I think that's what we were saying earlier. People rush the process of taking care of your mental health. Right?
Yeah.
I know I did. And I ran into that wall really hard. So lesson well learned, right? I was going, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm gonna have to do everything, everything against what my body's telling me, right?
Yeah.
I need to get back out there. I need to do this. I need to do this. I need to do this. And I didn't take care of the basics for a very long time. And so I don't sleep, right? So I'm always up at night. And when the sun comes up, I'm usually looking at it going, all right, we're just going to go into another day then. I guess that's what we're doing, right? But I am very mindful, because when I am watching the sun come up, I look at it. As soon as I see the sun, my mind goes, meditate.
Yes.
Center yourself right now.
Yeah.
And so I do. I'll sit there and I'll meditate, and I'll go into this zone of just being mindful and very self-aware of what's going on with my body, right? And I'm connecting. I'm connecting with those cells and everything, and I'm increasing my serotonin and my dopamine for that feel good, right? Without anything, it's just like I want to feel good, and so I connect with it. And it's like, let's fill them up. And so I start thinking, I start remembering times from when I was a kid, being with my grandmother, the smells of the holidays, or just family gatherings, and times where I climbed trees with my son. I still smell the pine in my nose, and it brings this joy to me, where I can smile, and it's like, okay, I can move the rest of the day. Now, is it like that all the time? No, it's not. Like you said, it comes in waves. But I do stick to certain basic things, like you said. That's what my basics look like. And I'm not always good with my eating, but I love working out. And so being an ex-bodybuilder, it's like, you're supposed to eat, Tony, right? Like, we got to go back to this. My problem is I overdo it. I don't know how to stop at 3 meals. It's like I got to have 5, 6, 7, 8 meals.
Yeah.
But, I also, with the working out, it's a calming effect for me, right? Having heavy weight under me and picking it up, it's like, it's my happy place.
Yes.
It's my happy place. There's nothing there, right? It's just me and the weights. Normally I'm by myself when I'm working out. So, and I wouldn't recommend that to people, especially if we work out heavy and everything. You might find yourself in a bad situation. Don't do that. Done that a couple of times, but it was worth it. It was definitely worth it. How can people find you?
Yeah. So I've just emerged onto the LinkedIn world. But yeah, so probably on LinkedIn, but actually thinking about that, I do have another profile, so probably not LinkedIn. Maybe. Although I'm sure you can put a link to my profile on LinkedIn if it's good.
I went through it. I was like, you just see. No, I always do my research. I always do my research.
Um, so I have a website which is really easy to remember. It's just Relax with Lucy and Co. So you can go on the website and you can find me on there. For any kind of meditations and stuff like that, I am on Insight Timer, and that's the free meditation app. So I'm on there. But yeah, that's probably I'm on quite a lot of different platforms, but those two are probably the best
Okay.
forms. And as well, if anybody does want to find the Ellie's Gift app, which is the free baby loss app, they can go to it's available on Apple and on the Play Store, but I don't know whether are those things of it. Obviously Apple will be available to you, won't it? But the Play Store,
Yes.
I'm not really sure how you guys download apps. I
No,
don't really
the same way. Like honestly,
same.
the way that we do it is all universal. If you got
All
that
right,
phone
okay.
in the Play Store, you can download anything that you want.
Well, that makes sense. I was like saying it and thinking, is this even applicable everywhere?
No, it's universal.
So just for the record, I did not build the app, as you can tell from my very limited technological mindset. I just have the ideas.
No, I understand. If we have the ideas, we definitely need someone to come back through and go, hey, I have an idea, but I need you to do it because that's to my own demise, it's not going to get done. Procrastination
No,
best.
no, I'm not an app developer. I can try and help you with your mind and yeah, and
Yes,
grief.
yes, I am that guy. I'm just like you. I can help you up here. I just can't help you over there. That's why normally I have my production guys doing the thing for the
Yeah.
podcast because they're a lot better than me.
Yeah.
They left me to my own demise because they decided to get sick. And I went, you know what? I'm going to figure it out. And as you see how well that worked out, right? Times are all messed up. So that's the way we make it work.
I can't believe that. Yeah. So anyway, we're here now, aren't we? The time mix up.
Yes, yes. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I am definitely okay with it. I have no shame because I'll just look and go, yeah, I did that. I definitely did that.
Yeah.
But from this point on, we're just gonna go with it. Okay, is that okay with you? Good. Until my guys come back and I'm gonna go, okay, this is yours.
Yeah.
Let's stay over here in my lane. Now, if you had any encouraging words to tell anyone out there today, what would you tell
them? I would literally tell them to take it moment by moment in relation, if I'm talking about grief, that is.
Well, grief and your mental health.
Yeah, even mental health, recognizing that the way that you feel today won't be the way that you always feel.
Right.
That's the really beautiful thing I think about being human, is that change is a given, but change doesn't always mean negative change. Even in grief, we can learn to touch joy. Even in, with our mental health, it helps to build resilience. And also as well, owning it. I say to people, own it. If you struggle with anxiety or depression, just, that's who you are. That's what you come with. Sometimes it isn't about fixing it. It's about learning how to walk with it, whatever that is. So yeah, there's encouraging words amongst all of that stuff. So
No, I'm listening. I'm like, man, that's a whole lot of beautiful stuff right there. And
yeah,
to the people out there listening, or that will be listening, hopefully they take that away from there and able to add that to their toolbox to help themselves. But also, I want to encourage people to reach out, and I will be putting your links up. So, if anyone needs to talk to someone, or you're just looking for some extra tools, her links are going to be in the description down below. And hopefully guys took some away from this, man. Like, I've had an amazing conversation with her, a lot of beautiful gems in there. If you guys wasn't paying attention, go back and repeat it, listen to it again. There's a whole lot of stuff in there that that can help you. Don't take your mental health for granted. It's crucial that you take care of yourself. You know, we got so many people committing suicide nowadays or
Mm.
finding other ways of coping with their mental health, you know. And then I just want to make sure that it's available for people so they know and everything. And with that being said, I'm going to conclude this episode of Memories of Us. And to those that are going to be paying attention, thank you for paying attention. Lucy, thank you for being on. This was so amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much. And to anyone out there that's looking at listening to this right now, please reach out to Lucy. This woman is amazing. She's in the UK, so make sure you get your times right.
Yeah.
Make sure you get your times right. Don't be like a Tony. We tried to do this like 3 or 4 times. So, but we're not gonna talk about that though.
No.
Not gonna talk about that. But no, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and close it out. Everybody, I want to say thank you, keep your head up, love you. And as always, thank you for allowing us to serve you. And check out the links below. All right. Peace. Oh, there we go.